Hello, welcome to day 104 of 365. This study will upload on April the 15th at 5 p.m. Yesterday we read about Balak, a king of non-Jewish tribes, and Balaam. Balak went to Balaam because Balaam is an occultist, because Balak wants Balaam to put a curse on the tribes of Israelites so that they would be easier to defeat, because there are many of them. And when they look over and they see the tribes encamped, they realize how large the numbers are, even though many have died since leaving Egypt for various reasons. That his donkey that he's riding sees an angel, the angel of the Lord, holding a sword. And the donkey turns off the path, and Balaam hits his donkey with the crop, and this happens 3 times until the donkey speaks. Scoffers against those of us who believe love to call that one out as, how can you believe the Bible? There was a talking donkey. Yes, there was, and I believe it with my whole heart and soul. And if we read the story, we understand why. God will use a talking donkey, a warrior angel, whatever it takes, to protect his people, the Jews. And that's something we all need to know. So now we're going to start in Numbers chapter 23, and we're going to read to verse 25 in chapter 24. And this is more of Balaam, the occultist. And Balaam said to Balak, "Build for me here 7 altars, and prepare for me here 7 bulls and 7 rams." Balak did as Balaam had said, and Balak and Balaam offered on each altar a bull and a ram. And Balaam said to Balak, "Stand beside your burnt offering, and I will go. Perhaps the Lord will come to meet me, and whatever he shows me, I will tell you." And he went to a bare height, and God met Balaam. And Balaam said to him, "I have arranged the 7 altars, and I have offered on each altar a bull and a ram." And the Lord put a word in Balaam's mouth and said, "Return to Balak, and thus you shall speak." And he returned to him, and behold, he and all the princes of Moab were standing beside his burnt offering. And Balaam took up his discourse and said, and this is Balaam's first oracle. "From Aram, Balak brought me, the king of Moab, from the eastern mountains. Come, curse Jacob for me, and come, denounce Israel." That's what Balak is asking Balaam. How can I denounce whom the Lord has not denounced? And Lord here is in all caps, so that was God's holy name. So Balaam is saying to Balak, how can you expect me to curse a people that God isn't cursing? In fact, the opposite. "For from the top of the crags I see him, from the hills I behold him. Behold, a people dwelling alone, and not counting itself among the nations. Who can count the dust of Jacob," that is the descendants, "of number the 4th part of Israel? Let me die the death of the upright, and let my end be like this." And Balak said to Balaam, "What have you done to me? I took you to curse my enemies, and behold, you have done nothing but bless them." And he answered and said, "Must I not take care to speak what the Lord puts in my mouth?" The Lord in all caps. So here Balaam is saying the Lord's name. Balaam's second oracle. And Balak said to him, "Please come with me to another place from which you may see them. You shall see only a fraction of them, and shall not see them all. Then curse them for me from here, from there." So I think that what Balak is thinking is that if Balaam doesn't see the whole number of them, he might not be afraid to curse them. But Balaam is not cursing them because he realizes they're blessed by God, because he's been told that by God, not because of their size. And he took him to the field of Zophim, to the top of Pisgah, and built 7 altars, and offered a bull and a ram on each altar. Balaam said to Balak, "Stand here beside your burnt offering, while I meet the Lord over there." And the Lord met Balaam, and put a word in his mouth, and said, "Return to Balak, and thus you shall speak." And he came to him, and behold, he was standing beside his burnt offering, and the princes of Moab with him. And Balak said to him, "What has the Lord spoken?" And Balaam took up his discourse and said, "Rise, Balak, and hear. Give ear to me, O son of Zippor. God is not man that he should lie, or a son of man that he should change his mind. He has said, and will he not do it? Or has he spoken, and will he not fulfill it? Behold, I received a command to bless. He has blessed, and I cannot revoke it. He has not beheld misfortune in Jacob, nor has he seen trouble in Israel." Talking about the whole tribe of the descendants of Jacob. "The Lord their God is with them, and the shout of a king is among them." That's a prophecy to David, and then by extension to Jesus. God brings them out of Egypt, and is for them like the horns of the wild ox. For there is no enchantment against Jacob, no divination against Israel, meaning nothing will work. I can't curse them. Now it shall be said of Jacob and Israel, what God has wrought. Behold, a people, as a lioness it rises up, and as a lion it lifts itself. It does not lie down until it has devoured the prey and drunk the blood of the slain. So picture a lion. It is a very large animal that sleeps a lot. It rests. It wants peace. But when it's time to hunt and eat, when it rises up, you see its musculature. And there's nothing around it that can defeat it. And it won't lie down again until it has bloodied its enemy. And Balak said to Balaam, "Do not curse them at all, and do not bless them at all." But Balaam answered Balak. So that's Balak's sort of kind of giving up a little, saying, okay, fine, don't curse them, but don't bless them either. So Balak puts a lot of faith in Balaam's powers. "Did I not tell you all that the Lord says that I must do?" That's Balaam speaking. And Balak said to Balaam, "Come now, I will take you to another place. Perhaps it will please God that you may curse them for me from there." Balak is frustrated. So Balak took Balaam to the top of Peor, which overlooks the desert. And Balaam said to Balak, "Build for me here 7 altars, and prepare for me here 7 bulls and 7 rams." And Balak did as Balaam had said, and offered a bull and a ram on each altar. Chapter 24, Balaam's third article. When Balaam saw that it pleased the Lord to bless Israel, he did not go, as at other times, to look for omens, but set his face toward the wilderness. And Balaam lifted up his eyes and saw Israel camping tribe by tribe, and the Spirit of God came upon him, and he took up his discourse. Now, before I go on to Balaam's discourse, which is an oracle from God, that when he looked down and he saw the camps tribe by tribe, remember how it's described that they must camp around the tabernacle. It is the cross. That is what they saw. And said, "The oracle of Balaam, the son of Beor, the oracle of the man whose eye is opened, the oracle of him who hears the words of God, who sees the vision of the Almighty. falling down with his eyes uncovered. How lovely are your tents, O Jacob, your encampments, O Israel. He's praising how they look. This cannot be pleasing Balak. Like palm groves that stretch afar, like gardens beside a river, like aloes that the Lord has planted, like cedar trees beside the waters. Water shall flow from his buckets, and his seed shall be in many waters. His king shall be higher than Agag, and his kingdom shall be exalted. Balaam's prophesying here. This is a major oracle. God brings him out of Egypt, and is for him like the horns of the wild ox. He shall eat up the nations, his adversaries, and shall break their bones in pieces, and pierce them through with his arrows. And we're reading to verse 25, which is all of chapter 24. He crouched, he lay down like a lion, and like a lioness, who will rouse him up. Blessed are those who bless you, and cursed are those who curse you. And Balak's anger was kindled against Balaam, and he struck his hands together. And Balak said to Balaam, I called you to curse my enemies, and behold, you have blessed them these 3 times. Therefore, now flee to your own place. I said, I will certainly honor you, but the Lord has held you back from honor. And Balaam said to Balak, did I not tell your messengers whom you sent to me? If Balak should give me his house full of silver and gold, I would not be able to go beyond the word of the Lord. That is, Lord, all caps, God's holy name, to do either good or bad of my own will. What the Lord speaks, that will I speak. And now behold, I am going to my people. Come, I will let you know what this people will do to your people. So Balaam has seen it all, and he is going to tell Balak. So now this says Balaam's final oracle, but I think the world's best Bible teacher, Chuck Missler, says that if you read on, there's actually 7 total oracles. And I believe that myself, having read the Bible. These oracles were to Balak and what was going to happen to them by the hand of the tribes of Israel. But there are more oracles that Balaam speaks mostly about Israel. And he took up his discourse and said, the oracle of Balaam, the son of Beor, the oracle of the man whose eye is opened, the oracle of him who hears the words of God, and who knows the knowledge of the Most High. Now that's woke. That's very woke to have your eye open to God's will and your ear open to God's voice and words. And knows the knowledge of the Most High, who sees the vision of the Almighty, falling down with his eyes uncovered. I see him, but not now. I behold him, but not near. A star shall come out of Jacob. Many biblical scholars believe that that is the Star of Bethlehem. I believe that it is by extension, but I think that first it is speaking here of a star shall come out of Jacob is the Star of David, and again, by extension, Jesus. And a scepter shall rise out of Israel. That's a king. It shall crush the forehead of Moab. The king, this future king, will destroy the king of Moab in later generations, which in this particular generation is Balak, and break down all the sons of Sheth. Edom shall be dispossessed. Remember, that is the descendants of Esau. Seir also, his enemies, shall be dispossessed. Israel is doing valiantly, and one from Jacob shall exercise dominion and destroy the survivors of cities. He's prophesying big time here, and when we read through the rest of the Bible, as we are going to this year, we are going to see these prophecies come true. And then he looked on Amalek and took up his discourse and said, Amalek was the first among the nations, but its end is utter destruction. And he looked on the Kenite and took up his discourse and said, enduring is your dwelling place. So he's speaking to each of these princes that are with Balak, and he's telling them what's going to happen. Enduring is your dwelling place, and your nest is set in the rock. Nevertheless, Cain shall be burned when Asher takes you away captive. And he took up his discourse and said, alas, who shall live when God does this? But ships shall come from Kittim, and shall afflict Asher and Deber, and he too shall come to utter destruction. Then Balaam rose and went back to his place, and Balak also went his way. Those were the oracles of Balaam to the princes that came with Balak, the king of Moab. And now we're going to go to John. Jesus feeds 5,000. After this, Jesus went away to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, which is the Sea of Tiberias. And a large crowd was following him because they saw the signs that he was doing on the sick. Jesus went up on the mountain, and there he sat down with his disciples. Now the Passover, the feast of the Jews, was at hand. Lifting up his eyes then, and seeing that a large crowd was coming toward him, Jesus said to Philip, where are we to buy bread so that these people may eat? He said this to test him, for he himself knew what he would do. Philip answered him, 200 denarii worth of bread would not be enough for each of them to get a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said to him, there is a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish, but what are they for so many? Jesus said, have the people sit down. Now there was much grass in the place, so the men sat down, about 5,000 in number. Jesus then took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed them to those who were seated. So also the fish, as much as they wanted. And when they had eaten their fill, he told his disciples, gather up the leftover fragments, that nothing may be lost. So they gathered them up and filled 12 baskets with fragments from the 5 barley loaves left by those who had eaten. When the people saw the sign that he had done, they said, this is indeed the prophet who is to come into the world. They mean Elijah to return, or they mean the Messiah. Perceiving then that they were about to come and take him by force to make him king, so they believe him to be the Messiah, Jesus withdrew again to the mountain by himself. Now we're going to go to Mark chapter 6, verse 45 to 52. Jesus walks on water. Immediately he made his disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side, to Bethsaida, while he dismissed the crowd. And after he had taken leave of them, he went up on the mountain to pray. And when evening came, the boat was out on the sea, and he was alone on the land. And he saw what they were making headway, that they were making headway painfully, for the wind was against them. And about the 4th watch of the night, he came to them, walking on the sea. He meant to pass by them, but when they saw him walking on the sea, they thought it was a ghost and cried out. For they all saw him and were terrified. But immediately he spoke to them and said, take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid. And he got into the boat with them, and the wind ceased, and they were utterly astounded, for they did not understand about the loaves, but their hearts were hardened. Now, Matthew chapter 14, verses 22 to 33. Again, Jesus walks on water. Remember, we're reading the Bible word for word until we have completed the entire Bible. So how this particular study is putting it together. It's chronological and cross-reference. So we are reading how each of the apostles tells a particular story in their own vernacular and as they remember it. Immediately he made the disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowds. And after he had dismissed the crowds, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone. But the boat by this time was a long way from the land, beaten by the waves, for the wind was against them. And in the fourth watch of the night he came to them, walking on the sea. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified and said, "It is a ghost!" And they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, "Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid." And Peter answered him, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." He said, "Come." So Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came to us. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Jesus immediately reached out his hand and took hold of him, saying to him, "Oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt?" And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased, and those in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." Indeed. Thank you for reading scripture with me today. God willing, I'll be back tomorrow.